Hey everybody. So doing another thinking out loud, and it's one that I really meant to touch on some time back, but kind of got away from me. And then I made a Facebook post that is on my Complex Mind Simple Man page, but a lot of people don't get to really see that there because I don't know if you're following it yet. I know sometimes it's even hard to find. So figured I'd make a video, right? And what it kind of circles around is really humanizing some of the issues that we're dealing with and seeing how we can really move towards addressing some of it. But it would involve, now this anyway, is coming at it from a governmental standpoint. So the federal government and support of the population, because without our support, nothing happens. Unfortunately, sometimes with our support, very few things happen, but that's a different discussion. So I'm going to be reading back and forth. So when you see my eyes kind of moving, that's the reason why. But I'm going to kind of make, I'm going to say I'm going to be short. We'll see what happens. But my post led off with the fact that 89% of Americans, right, and that's across all spectrums, 89% of Americans could not afford a $500 immediate expense. And that, it struck me when I first heard this, a year ago when it first started being news. But it's really, really getting closer and closer for me to kind of look at this from another angle. So when you think about what is $500 in the grand scheme, and this is all relative, right? Because it all depends on where you sit financially and all these various factors. But generally speaking, $500 really isn't that much if you think about how much we have to spend just to function in today's American, society. Rough estimate, I would even say it costs close to $100 a day just to be, comfortable might not even be the word. It's more like $100 a day just to kind of be, because what's $100 a day? It's about $3,000 a month. So $3,000 a month, you with that need to cover your rent, which can be, let's say $1,000. Then you need your groceries. Let's say conservatively you're able to do that with $200 a month. So we're at 12. You got your car note, which is probably somewhere between 2 and 500. But just for the use of numbers, I'll say, 500. So now we're at 17. Got gas, utilities, miscellaneous expenses, just an occasional going out to eat type of thing. You get there quick. Let's just say you get there quick. So you could be looking at somewhere between $80 and $100 a day just to be okay, right? And that means that $500 takes on an outsized proportion to the typical American, okay? And that also, you got to look at what is that 89%. That 89% of the population, those are your elders, those are your young adults, and then there are your working age adults. That's a lot of people. And I don't think they count children. I hope they didn't, because that would just kind of skew the numbers. But if they did, these are still people who need to eat and function. I'm like, wow, so much goes into it. And so many people are really, really, if they're not hurting, they're living on the razor's edge. So it's like, what could we do practically to start, moving the needle some? So first one I had here was establish a national minimum income. All right. We've all heard this before, especially those of us who hang out on the left. But I'm saying send everyone from your wealthiest to your poorest, $2,000 a month minimum income. And the reason I say everyone is because there's no point in means testing this. If you're in the position where $2,000 is more than you typically make an entire month, then that $2,000 really helps. If you're someone that makes $10,000 a month, that extra $2,000 a month doesn't matter that much to you. So just give it. Let's skip on the means testing on this one. What will this do? So the extra $2,000, now you know businesses are going to adjust because that's what they do, because they're pirates. But what we would be looking at is the $2,000 would increase domestic spending. Okay? We're a consumer economy. So now people will be going and buying things. They'll be buying clothes. They'll be buying cars. They'll be renting homes. They'll be just consuming, which is what we do. We'll be buying fast food. We'll be going out to restaurants, okay? Because everybody's not going to save this money and everybody's not going to use it responsibly. And I don't care. Give the money. Because what happens then is more money comes into the business, all because people have to spend it. More people are drawing resources out of the businesses or consuming more. So now they need more employees. So if you feed this from a supply side, from a demand side, you will now start to generate more job opportunities and more ways to supplement your income. Because if you already are hitting 2,000, sure, there will be those that'll say that's good enough for me and they'll stay right there. But then there will be others who will do exactly what we watched with COVID. Take that money and go to school. Take that money and pay their rent. Take that money and help their elder or their family member who has medical needs and medical bills. That money will go to work. Now, at the upper echelons of income, they'll save it, they'll invest it, but who cares? They're already doing that anyway. Let them do what they do. I'm talking about helping everyone do a little bit better. Okay? Second thing, right? Because these are all going to kind of feed off each other. Establish a national moratorium on rent increases. Now, I haven't heard anyone actually bring this one up before. Maybe you have, but it's something that I thought of. And I was like, yo, if you're going to push the money into the economy, if you do number one and then do the minimum income, then you have to control the housing expenses because they're already out of control. So put a moratorium on increasing rents for a period of time. I don't know, let's say 3 to 5 years. Okay. You cannot raise rent, period. You're getting the extra $2,000 a month. So you're not hurting from the loss of revenue. Okay. So that's one. Two, you are also now getting your rent money, which you were already getting, right? The deferred, let me back up a little bit. So you're getting the extra $2,000. So you're getting the money back that you normally would be pulling from your renters anyway, unless you got a lot of them. But even then, they just being greedy. You'll be all right. You're going to take a little bit of a hit here. But you're still getting that excess income anyway, because rent is always priced higher than the actual value anyway. But then we developed like a PPP-like program. All right, PPP-ish. All right. And so now where the landlords, if they can show proof of occupancy and show proof that they are in compliance with the housing codes, then they would get an additional $1,000 a month for each of their units from the government. All right. So let's look at this. They're making an extra $2,000 from the minimum income, and they're making the extra $1,000 from the government for the rent that they're not being able to raise. So they're still getting income. They're getting roughly $100 a month, right? Which they kind of do to us on an annual basis anyway. So they're not losing much, if at all. But the people who are actually renting, they are being taken care of because now their rent's not going up to suck that money out. And they have the supplemental income from the minimum income that's helping to boost that part for them. What does that do? Now people can save for homes, right? That creates more of a demand, and we can start to get people into their homes, and it's not just being sucked up in the rent market. So I think that's a really cool thing to look at. Universal healthcare. That's number three. Universal healthcare, to me, this is the easy one. All right. Not easy to do, easy to decide on. All right. So no one should be going bankrupt for getting sick or hurt. The idea of people getting, going into bankruptcy because they can't afford to pay a medical bill. No, that's not how you invest in your citizens. Okay. We need to invest in the population by providing a universal health care. And that will help keep people healthy. If people are healthy and they're not being burdened by these high expenses and debts, they're less stressful. They're less depressed, they're less desperate. Now people are doing less crimes of need, right? All of this has helped to bring down the crime rate. Everything I've said so far helps to bring it down. Y'all still have your parasites, but that's why you go and you arrest them and you prosecute them. But for people who are finding themselves in situations where they don't see a way out, so they commit a crime, or they don't see a way out, so they go and they become addicted to a substance, something like that, we are reducing those things. All right. The private insurance market, that's where we always hear, well, what happens to them? I actually have a soft spot for such a dark industry because I've worked in it for so long. You can keep your private insurance market. It'll thin out because now you'll have the public insurance. But if you want to still go with name your insurance company here, then you can. And so long as they still exist, then you can do that. And the ones that still exist, they'll now have to compete with the government options here, so they won't be price gouging the way they have been, and they'll have to become more in line. They can still be profitable, they just can't be predatory. So now we're starting to help on that end too. All right, so let the parasites fall off. Those who can't make it, they'll fall off. Those who can will continue. Everybody will streamline and innovate, and we'll move from there. Number 4, gun control. I have been hearing a lot of talk about ban assault rifles and ban this and ban that. And when you go with that hard line, when you know you can't get it, what do? You basically entrench the two sides again. And it's just one more thing to pit one side against the other. Meanwhile, we're still being plagued with the same problems. Now, I would say with that, what I'm about to propose, it won't get rid of guns. Okay? Full disclosure, I'm a gun owner. Now, but I do say, stop saying that. Right? Stop. And I'm talking to people on the left. Stop saying we're just going to ban everything. It's impractical given the American way of doing things. Right? So if we continue with that line of thought of just ban it, then the other side is going to be more of they're trying to take your guns, we've seen this, we've done this for 40 years. It's great for fundraising, horrible for saving lives. So here we go. Couple ideas. 1, limit magazine capacity. We've heard that one before. I agree with that one. Fix the background loopholes. Okay? Tighten those rules. Tighten those guidelines so that people aren't just sliding through the cracks. Okay? Require insurance and registration for any and all firearms. Okay? So you want to have your weapon, you have your weapon, but it needs to be registered and you need to have liability insurance on that, just like you would for your car. Okay? Let people have their pistols, SBR, short barrel rifles, PCCs, that's pistol caliber carbines, and other weapons like that. I would say get rid of the AR-15 rifles, but that's when we can negotiate and work our way through, because there's so many ways to play games with what an assault rifle is in the first place, right? Some of you who heard me on a recent show, I pointed out, you take an AR-15 rifle and you change the buttstock to a brace, and you now have, and have a shorter barrel, you now have a PCC. You now have an AR pistol, right? Same gun, but now we can call it a pistol. So we got to be more careful. The more lethal the class. So this is where if you are going to keep the ARs in there, and AR type, right, weapons in there, if you're going to keep some of the PCCs and aggressive weapons like that in there, okay. The more lethal the class of weapon, the higher the premiums are going to be for liability insurance, and the higher your registration costs are going to be. And you have to make sure let's say every 2 years, you have to recertify that you have that weapon. And if you don't have that weapon, there needs to be a bill of sale, and you pay your taxes on that, and then you pay for your registration your re-registration for the weapons that you keep, right? Let's not do this every year like we do our cars. I think that's excessive anyway. So do that. I think that would really help. Now, if your weapon is unregistered, because people like to hide stuff. If your weapon is unregistered, that is automatically considered a misdemeanor. If it remains that way for like willful non-compliance, now it's a felony. Okay? Now we're putting some teeth in these things. You can have the weapons you want. You just got to follow the rules. Okay? And if that's what you say, you're just a gun enthusiast and it's for sport and it's just for competitions, then you shouldn't have any problem with doing these things. Now, what will this mean? If your weapon is involved in a crime, that serial number, right, because it's registered, it's going to track back to you. Any weapon that we find that is involved in a crime, it has to belong to somebody. If it doesn't belong to anybody, if there's no record of sale, now we go straight to the gun manufacturers and you sue the pants off of them because they didn't control their product leaving their facility. There's always a chain of custody with this idea. All right. So if your weapon's involved in a crime or it's stolen, but you don't report it, that is automatically opening you up for civil and possibly criminal penalties, depending upon the circumstances as to how this all came to be. If it's a resident of your household, well, I hope you carry good limits, kind of like you do with your cars, right? So now, next one. I'm trying to get through this. All right. Number 5, invest heavy in inner cities, rural areas. Sorry, I struggle with that word. And rail or coal towns, right? The rail and coal towns are terms that I would use for like your left behind communities, right? When the rail boom was going on for a huge chunk of the American time frame, like it revolutionized trade. And cities and towns were built up around these railroads. Well, as technology got better, we had the trucks and we had the planes and we have all these things that made the commerce system so much smoother, and the interstates and the highways. Trains weren't used the same way anymore. So now there weren't commuter trains. There weren't people traveling by train as much. And we all got cars and stuff like that. So these communities got left behind. What do you do when people don't get off at your city to do their trade or rest or any of the things that you establish little communities around these railroad depots for? What happens is your children grow up and they can't stay there, so they leave and they don't come back. No one's coming in to shop or do business in your area, so everything starts to stagnate and die. You grow very frustrated and disgruntled. Same thing is about to happen to the coal industry, where we're talking about, well, we need to get rid of coal. All right, bet, I agree with you. But people actually make their livings off of this, even if they're minor livings. So we need to make sure that while we may not be able to retrain the coal miner, depending upon age and aptitude, we do need to have the ability for their son or their daughter or their niece or their nephew or their wife or their husband to go and work in, say, green industry in the same town. Let the coal plant continue to do what the heck it's doing. You put your regulations in to make them run cleaner and more efficiently, which is what we're doing anyway. But now you have your solar technologies and you have your nuclear technologies and you have your wind and all these different things that are coming up. And you build your battery plants and all these different things in these communities, like the rail communities, right? And now people can earn a living. You're getting a lot of pushback because you can't tell me to starve so everybody else can eat. That's a terrible way to push any type of an agenda. Hillary Clinton. So we got that. Inner cities, we got to work on that. Bring in more hospitality that actually pays well. Work on getting manufacturing jobs and things of that nature back into the cities where they used to be, so that people can go to work and they can build things and do things and have trade opportunities that have been largely taken from them. Okay, so that's that one. Now, basically what I put here, don't leave people behind. We don't have to. We got enough money. We can do it. Now, number 6, legalize drugs. All of them. Okay? Legalize them all. End the war on drugs. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean everybody go get high and die. No. You strengthen the borders. Put up your little walls, put up your guards and all those good things, bring in the technology, all that good stuff. But now it's not about criminalizing people coming in or going out, but it's actually protecting the industry that is within the country so that we're not having people smuggling fentanyl and crack, and cocaine and heroin into the country. You actually have legalized means of doing this now. So the cartels have to either legalize or find something else to do. So we can do that. That'll help on the human trafficking. That will help with the more and more potent yet deadly drugs. It'll reduce some of the militaristic aspect of patrolling our country. It would do wonders. Okay. Now, with the money we save there and the energy we save there, shift that to helping people with education so they don't get on drugs, helping people with mental health so they don't get on drugs, helping people with trade schools and employment opportunities and bringing industry into these depressed areas so they don't get on drugs. See, these are the things you can do with the same money, but a whole different focus of what you're doing with the money. Because one thing we just saw is that having the best, I'm not going to say trained, the best equipped and well-staffed law enforcement doesn't help because they don't stop crimes. And we just watched that play out multiple times in the last 2 years alone. So if that's not working, time to pull back from there and put it on the other side so we can stop the things that create the energy that creates the problem that then the police have to go after. You reduce that, you reduce desperation, reduce poverty, reduce anger, reduce depression, and you now have reduced the need for the police. So now you can specialize the police more and they can be more engaged in things like ATF work or firearms. No, that's ATF. But like those types of things, or SWAT, or hostage negotiations, suicide situations, things that are elevated and need a specific level of training and ability. Let's train and get the police in a position to do those specific things. All the other stuff, take it off their plate. So now we helped with that part because personally, we need less police. But as long as we got all this mess going on, you will never sell that to anyone. All right. Number 7. This is my last one. Government, federal and state cooperatives, buy out of these dead and dying malls and motels. Take the government money, our money, buy up these properties, completely renovate and switch them up so that now you have housing for those who are unhoused and wish to be. That can be transitional housing. If you think about it, you come in here, If you're on drugs, if you're not on drugs, or whatever puts you in a situation where you need somewhere to be, you have somewhere to be. Now, it's not without conditions. Now we'll help you get job training, and we'll help you with beating your addiction if that's what you want to do. You know, if you don't want to beat your addiction, well, guess what? The time here in this housing is going to be short-lived. But we need to do this in a secular way. We don't need you beating people over the head with your religion. All right. If you're a religious person, then you're more than welcome to bring your professional training and empathy and things like that to the fore to come and help these people. But they don't need your God. They need you. You will bring your God with you if that's truly what you're doing. You don't have to push it off to someone else, if that makes sense. All right. So if you give people a safe place to transition to and into and out of, you start to reduce the homeless population situation. You reduce children and families and individuals living in cars, living in these extended stay motels where it's just sucking the money out of them faster than they can make it. You actually can help people, you know. Let's make it possible for everyone if they want it. 7 quick ideas that a national commitment. That's sorry. I'm reading it funny. So what I just gave you, in short, are 7 ideas. Okay? Each of them requires a lot more work and a lot more detail and a lot more pulling out of. I've already spent I don't know how many minutes doing just this rundown. This was one post, y'all, that I made on Facebook. No wonder very few people read it. But this is how we reduce the need for prisons. We reduce the militarization of our police. We have less weapons of war wandering the streets, and so many other cumulative benefits that will all feed together to make America a better place for us all. Still got other issues, still got racial issues, still have gender issues, still have orientation issues. Each of those need to be taken care of. But this is one huge piece that makes it better for all of us as we work on those other items as well. So thank you for checking out my, this is just me thinking out loud. So give me your feedback. Give me your ideas. Give me your comments. You already know what to do. Appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope you have a tremendously great rest of your day. Thank you again. Complex Mind, Simple Man. This is your man, Theus. Talk to you later. Bye.